Hi there. So, over time, I've developed kind of a love for these palm top type devices. I've got quite a few of them, including Toshiba Libretto. I have one of these. Yeah, a 95LX, and I had a couple of these 200LXs, one of which, the one that this motherboard came from, I'm using for a separate project that you might also see on my channel. And this here is my main one. It's one of the models that has 2 megabytes of RAM. It's really fun. They're really fun devices to use. But this one has got, well, one problem and one modification that I'd like to do to it. One of the more popular mods that's available for these palm tops is to replace the internal crystal that runs at 16 megahertz with a much faster one. This is one that runs at 32 megahertz, and it essentially doubles, it essentially overclocks the entire palm top. I've actually tried this similar mod with a 32 megahertz crystal on this board, and it messes 32 with a 36 megahertz crystal on this board, and it messes with the LCD too much to be of any use. But 32 works perfectly fine. You'll notice that the crystal that I'm using here has been shaved down, and it's a weird sort of a through-hole mount crystal. They actually sell crystals that are the exact same size and shape of the ones that are already used in these palm tops. So buying one that looks like this for this mod is not necessary at all, but these are the ones that I had lying around. So we're going to be using this 32 megahertz crystal to essentially double the speed of this palm top, which is really nice, really fun. And the other thing that I want to do is, if I turn on my flash, you can see that, maybe you can, I'm actually missing a pin on my serial port, and that's not the worst thing in the world, because that pin, I think, is only responsible for transmitting data from a computer to the palm top. So if that's not something that you want to do, whatever. But I actually want full functionality with this palm top. That serial port, though, it's a really odd little construction. So what I plan on doing is removing one of the pins. This board is also missing a pin on the serial port for some reason. Removing one of the pins from here, sticking it onto this board, and at the same time doing a 32 megahertz crystal mod. I think those two mods together is going to make it more than worthwhile to open up these palm tops. The plastics can get really brittle with age, so opening them up more and more often is kind of a bad idea. But whatever. Let's get this thing opened up really fast and see what we can do. And the motherboard just comes out right like that. These parts, the battery contacts, they actually pop off of the motherboard, and they're supposed to clip into the top case, not into the bottom case, not into the motherboard or anything like that. So the actual motherboard itself is pretty nice. It's really small, not unwieldy at all. You'll notice that these two boards, they have a slightly different RAM configuration down here on the bottom. RAM upgrades are really, really popular with these, but one thing to know is that the CPU is an 8186 and actually can't address anything more than 640 kilobytes of memory. I had to learn that through painstaking research, so there is no way to upgrade the system memory. You can get ridiculous RAM upgrades up to like 96 megabytes, but anything more than stock is just going to go straight towards the C drive that gets, it's essentially a RAM drive that gets configured whenever you first boot this thing up. So, down here on the board, you can see, maybe you can? Yeah, you can see my missing pin. And right here, next to our CPU, that can is our 16 megahertz crystal. And we're going to be removing that. There's a little bit of glue and some solder on this end holding it in place, and replacing it with that guy. Now, like I said, you can buy cans that are that exact size and shape. You don't have to do what I'm doing here just to achieve this mod. It's a lot easier if you buy them in the right size in the first place. Before we get to the clock mod, we're actually going to take care of this singular pin. Hopefully the sound of my soldering iron doesn't ruin my audio. I'm going to use a pair of tweezers to just very gently lift this plastic part out of the way, similar to what I did with this one. And hopefully, with that out of the way, we can remove the broken one, desolder one of these, and then solder it in place. Okay, there it came. Now, kind of looks like I bent this out of place. Yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, I definitely did. Okay. Still the plastic piece, though. Okay, so it looks like we're going to be replacing not just one, but two of these pins here. So I think that'll be okay. Okay, yeah, this is gonna suck in terms of visibility, but what must be done? Okay, that is horrible, horrendous. I'm not kidding. But we got it. That's fucking sucks. Oh my god. I hate myself, dude. This is actually the worst thing that could possibly happen to me. You know, it occurs to me that I've never really considered suicide. Like, really given it a fair shot. that isn't too bad. That looks fine. It's not perfect, but it doesn't have to be. I've got a DB9 adapter right here that fits right into these pins, and you know, they all slot in just fine. Yeah. And this is probably the only thing that I'm ever going to be using this in conjunction with, so this is really the only thing that it needs to fit. If I was smart, yeah, you know what? I'm actually going to test continuity. I'm going to test that all of these are making adequate contact. Okay, that's fine. So, we'll take this and stick back on our little thing here. This tiny little plastic piece that goes on and sort of aligns all of these. This will just press back on after you, it should press right back on after you take it off. Who knows though, really. Okay, now to the more exciting part. Gonna take these legs on the crystal. Now I have the body of it wrapped in Kapton tape, so I should be able to just fold it right down along the body and be perfectly fine with that, as long as the two legs themselves don't touch. And you're gonna need just a little bit high heat on this capacitor, because the can is actually, very nice smoke, the can is actually soldered down onto the board like that, or come on, like that. You see how I lifted it up and then take my tweezers. Now these these cans, these crystals are not polar. You can just stick them on however you like, and they work. Just like that. Might not be a terrible idea to save the crystal, but I mean, I've got like a whole bucket full of these 32 megahertz crystals, so. Might not be a terrible idea, once you get this soldered down, to also hot glue it, or use some kind of adhesive to keep it down. There's a lot of modders that kind of hate that idea. Voltar, I'm looking at you, kind of hates hot glue, but, I mean, look, it worked. It's fine. Make sure that none of the leads are touching and that your battery can actually fit in there. Yeah, that's good. I think that's all good. So, that is with a fixed serial port, all 10 pins, and a 32 megahertz clock. Let's just put this really fast, no batteries or nothing, just with the power supply, and just see what comes up on screen. Because if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work. So that's not gonna, hey, that ain't bad. That is very fast. That's probably twice as fast as it usually is. Wow, okay, well, it works. I suppose I'd love to test the serial port as well, but I mean, there's not much of a point in that, right? There's not much of a point in that right at this moment. I mean, all the connections are there. There's no reason that it wouldn't work. So I'm actually going to get this thing buttoned back up, and then we'll see you then. I'm actually going to start recording it again to show you guys how to stick these battery contacts back in. Like I said, they don't go into this side of the case. They go into this side. I think this is the negative side of the battery terminal. But there's that little cross piece. Come on. There's that little cross piece that goes beside the spring, and that sort of hooks into this part. Let me get this. And goes in there like that. That's how you want that to be set up. And then this bends down into place and goes right there. Then the positive part, there's that little spike there, and it's the same sort of idea over here. And that goes about like that. That's the best way that I've gotten these to stay in place. And if they stay there, if they stay right where they are now, then they'll connect back into the motherboard perfectly fine. So, 2 weeks later, we finally got this thing completely buttoned up the way that it should be. Everything fits into the case just like it should, nothing bulges out. And the first thing that you notice whenever you boot it up is that it boots a lot faster than it used to. Something like Layer of Squid. Damn. Something like Layer of Squid, it loads and plays a lot faster than it used to. You can actually tell. And this isn't quite like an overclock on a modern system that runs at gigahertz with a really complicated multi-threaded processor. This is taking the clock that runs the processor and just doubling it. So you can pretty reliably say that anything that would previously take this device 2 seconds to do will now take it only 1 second. There's also a couple of drivers that you need to load in order for specifically the serial port and some other parts of the system to work like they should. And just to demonstrate that I do have a functioning serial port on here, and so believe it or not, this thing can actually run Windows 3.0 in real mode. Can't run Windows 3.1 because I'm pretty sure that 3.1 didn't actually have a real mode at all. But press slash and on, and you can reverse the colors on the LCD and get a genuinely pretty usable system. Let me zoom in just a little bit to let you see. That mouse is actually moving, and this is in fact the 200LX. Yeah, this thing, it really is a joy to use at 32 megahertz. The 16 was okay, but if you've used these devices for any amount of time, you can really tell. It's a lot nicer to use at 32 megahertz. But I mean, with that there's not any benchmarks that are really, you know, reasonable to do right now, because like I said, it's literally just a double speed. It feels snappier. Everything gets done a little bit faster. But yeah, this has been a really fun mod to do. I have a fully functional double speed working serial port. Got some new drivers and new utilities for the battery and whatnot installed on this. I really like this device, and I'm gonna see what as we go into 2024, I'm gonna see what kind of uses we can find for this.